Bagpiper Podcast, Floyd Central Sports Edition. Follow us on Twitter for the latest on all things Floyd Central Sports at Bagpiper_sports. Alongside me, Mitchell Lockhart, I'm Patrick Hynes. Floyd Central boys basketball got a couple of games on the slate for this weekend. On Friday night, they take on Seymour here at home. Then also at home, Saturday night versus Evansville Reitz. Mitchell, both teams have pretty solid records. Seymour not so much, been struggling in conference play, but Evansville Reitz, one of the toughest teams around the last couple of years. They're 12-3, and they come to Floyd Central. What the Highlanders need to do to turn their season around, sitting at 7-5.
Yeah, I think that probably the most important thing for this team, this Highlander team, to do is to make their threes. I know it's not an easy task, but I think that that's really how this team has put, that's what this team, they've lived and died off the three. When they were playing New Albany, and they played them really close, unfortunately they lost, but New Albany was number one in the state at the time. But they shot the threes really well, and that's how they hung in the game. All the players consistently shot the three ball very, very successfully. So I think that that's really the main thing that this Highlander team needs to do, and also defense. I think that they need to be able to, take out the team's best. This is a key, not just for Evansville Wright and Seymour, but for every game. They really need to work on defending the paint, doing their defensive rotations effectively, so they don't give up any easy layups.
Evansville Wright sitting at 12-3, said a minute ago. They were one of the top teams in the state last year. They had a consistently good team under Coach Michael Adams. In his 23rd year, he's won 308 games. That's really impressive on your resume. And then experienced coach for Wrights going against a not-so-experienced coach for Floyd Central, Todd Sturgeon, only in his second year. And he's still rebuilding. He had a tough group of kids to deal with last year, not the kids he wanted to develop. But this year, I think it's his first time getting the players that he wanted and getting them working into the system that he wanted, because he kind of took over for Mark Lieberman last year and had to deal with the hand that he was dealt. And that turned out he worked with the cards, but he didn't really get that team to where he thought it needed to be with all that talent. And I think this year he has not as much talent, but he has more chemistry on the team. He has more rapport with all of the players, and I think that's what's going to get the most success out of this group of kids. And with only 2 seniors graduating, he has the bulk of the team coming back for next year and a lot of young talent.
Yeah, I definitely think that one of this team's strengths is their youth. You see the varsity starting lineup. There's only 2 or the varsity lineup rather. There's only 2 seniors and 2 juniors, and the rest are all freshmen, sophomores, or are all freshmen and sophomores. So I just think that maybe in 2 or 3 years you'll really see an experienced team that's played with each other through all of high school, that really will have good chemistry, and they'll be really experienced and really just ready. They'll come ready to play their senior year, because you'll just see all these players that have been able to grow and develop together. That's one really big thing when a team starts off in 9th grade and they play with each other all the way through 12th grade, on freshman team and junior varsity and then varsity. You see them all grow as players together, and their chemistry really improves from 9th grade to their senior year. So I really think that, in 2 or 3 years, that'll probably be FC's, top year when they have all these seniors.
They've got, Luke Goman, who's one of the highly regarded underclassmen in the area. And you also got Kobe Barnes, a freshman, who's one of the top, I would say probably top 10 or 15 freshmen in the state of Indiana so far. But all of them are kind of overshadowed by the other underclassmen just a couple miles down the road. That's Romeo Langford, who's just been putting on a show for New Albany. And he broke into the top 25 in the ESPN, the 2018 class, their rankings. He's 21st in the country, and he's playing like one of the top guys in the state so far. And I think that the big question with him, not to get off topic, but the big question with Romeo is that will he stay at New Albany, or will he go to maybe a prep academy, in Oak Hill and Montverde, somewhere to compete against other kids that are his same skill level as him, to get him acclimated to what he'll be facing in the college level. I think that's what's going to be key for New Albany going forward, if they keep Romeo or not. And that's what's been kind of their key to success so far for New Albany, is the Romeo Langford show. And I think that's, it's got them through a lot of games. They're number 1 in the state for a reason, all behind Romeo Langford. And they only beat Floyd Central by, 3? And Romeo Langford had probably 30 points in that game. I can't remember the exact total, but he dominated that game from start to finish, but Floyd Central competed. So I think kind of tying this back into Floyd Central, they can compete with the teams that are sitting at the top of the rankings. They can compete with them up until the final buzzer, and I think Floyd Central did that, but that was behind their three-point shooting, as you said a minute ago. So one of the keys for Floyd Central is obviously their three-point shooting and their ball movement and their defense, because a lot of times Floyd Central gets caught in transition, and they're just a little behind. They're not the most athletic team out there. New Albany is a little more athletic than Floyd Central is, and they took advantage of that in the New Albany game where it was, a 60-57 win for the Bulldogs, I believe. But Floyd Central really showed how they can play. I think that's what's going to, they have to have that same mindset. Can we just play like we did against New Albany if they face New Albany again later on or for the rest of their regular season? They have about 6 or 7 games, 10 games back on the schedule. First, Seymour again on Friday, and then Evansville Reitz Saturday night. They don't face New Albany again. They face Bloomington North, which is kind of a keynote game because Tom Crean comes to town for New Albany, for Bloomington North. They come down to Floyd Central. His son plays on Bloomington North, and you think Floyd Central's going to have a big crowd out for that one.
Yeah, definitely. There'll be a huge crowd out for that game. It's going to be a great game. Hopefully Floyd Central can compete and make their threes and defend the paint. Yeah, that'll definitely be one of the more entertaining games for sure this year. And like you were saying, definitely the keys for this Floyd Central team are to do better in transition and to make their threes. I think that's how this team's ultimately going to be able to win their doubleheader this weekend.
So again, just to recap, we got Seymour Friday night 7:30 at Floyd, Evansville Reitz 7:30 at Floyd on Saturday night. So hopefully you'll show out to support the Highlanders this year. They're sitting at 7-5 and 2 opportunities to pick up 2 more wins this weekend. Evansville Reitz will be tough. Seymour, kind of a misleading record. They're 4-10. But they've had some really close losses. They lost by 15 to New Albany, but New Albany has really blown away most teams. In the Floyd Central game, the 3-point margin was a little bit unexpected. And then they only lost by 5 to Jeffersonville, which Floyd lost by 3 to Jeff the other night. So it looks like they can compete with teams, and I think it's more evenly matched than the records show. They're coming off a 61-37 win versus Scottsburg after two close losses to Columbus East and Bedford. But Seymour's going to be a tough challenge for Floyd Central. They need to be ready. Their mind has to be in the right place. They can't look ahead to Evansville Reitz, and that's tough when you face a good team. Like the day after you play a team that's maybe not so good, you might be looking ahead to that tough challenge the next day and overlook that opponent. So Seymour, they could come back and get them. They have a third-year coach. He's really, developing this team. Kyle Clow in his third year, 15-41. That's not the best record, but he's working with a team. He lost the first 6 or 7 games this season, then responded well. 4 wins in the last 8 games for Seymour, and they're going to be a tough challenge for Floyd Central. Floyd needs to just come out, play within themselves, and do what they do best, which is shoot the ball from the outside, get it inside to Connor Sturgeon and Luke Goman, and just work from there.
Yeah, definitely. They can't let this losing record of Seymour fool them. Seymour has been a very good team as of late. More like an average team as of late, but they've definitely improved over the course of the season, and it looks like they're continuing to improve. So Floyd Central has to be careful and not let this record deceive them. They can't come in there with big heads. They need to keep a level-minded head and be calm and just get what should be an easy win for Floyd Central.
That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for listening. I'm Patrick Hynes. Alongside me, Mitchell Lockhart. Be sure to follow us on Twitter for the latest on all things Floyd Central sports at Bagpiper_sports.